All right. Thank you all for coming, and I'm sorry that I'm your presenter. Actually, I'm the stand-in for a colleague who is a master mentor, Doug Masterson, but he had a family emergency and couldn't be here. How's that? Better? Okay. All right. So I thought I would give you my thoughts on mentoring and tell you a little bit why I think mentoring is so important. And that is because of my own experiences of being a non-mentored student. I'm a first-generation college student. I grew up in Germany, where the system is very different. My mom has a 10th grade education, and my dad has a high school diploma. But neither one of them went to college, couldn't advise me. I was absolutely clueless. I sailed through high school because I consider myself reasonably smart, but I didn't know how to register for classes, which classes to choose. I relied on some older students to tell me that, and certainly the Herr Professor Doctor, and in the sciences they were all, except one woman who was severely ridiculed by her male colleagues, were all Herr Professor Doctors, male professors who were very standoffish and didn't really take an interest in any of us. And so I just muddled through, and I think if I had had some sort of mentor during my undergraduate studies, I probably would not have made a few mistakes or a few bad decisions I did make during my studies. And so I decided I wanted to become a college faculty and a good mentor so that I would help guide the students who needed some guidance, who were in the same situation I had been, and help them reach their full potential, and also engage them more in their mentor than in their major than I was, and in their university. So I have mentored and still am mentoring students at very different levels. I have mentored science fair projects of middle school students, high school students, multi-year research projects of high school students who visited my lab, and I have mentored college students, some honors college students, some just regular majors at the undergraduate and graduate level. So what do I think is the role of a mentor? Well, that varies with the task at hand and with the student at hand. It's truly an individualized relationship. However, in each case, mentoring always involves building rapport, building a personal relationship with your student, and that relationship must consist of mutual trust and respect, in my opinion. What does that require of the mentor? Well, you really must like mentoring, and you must take an interest in your student, a true interest in your student, and in how you can play a role in professionally and personally developing the student. It also means that sometimes you have to tell the student that he or she is on the wrong path, and intervene if necessary in a positive or sometimes also in a perceived negative role. And I can give you one example. We had a very smart student who came through a high school bridge program working in my lab in the summer, and he did a great job, and then I offered to pay him for the fall to continue his research project. He spent the fall in my lab whenever I was not directly interacting with him, sleeping at his desk, because he liked to play video games at night, all night. And so I finally told him that unless he changed his ways, I would no longer pay him. And he tried but didn't succeed, and so I no longer paid him. And he had to seek a job outside and tried to get several other faculty in other departments to pay him because he did have financial needs and there was no money available. Finally, he came around, and in his junior year, he joined another faculty member's lab, was wildly successful, and I could see that he had matured and he had learned from this negative experience of which I was the immediate cause. And he applied to, I think, 12 graduate schools and was accepted to all of them, had his pick, and now is at the University of Wisconsin, a very prestigious program. So that's an example of how a mentor sometimes has to do something that's not particularly popular with the student, but it has the desired effect on turning bad behavior around. I think the mentor should also guide the student towards realizing his or her own strengths and weaknesses. So in other words, getting the student to think about, is this really the right path for me? Even if that means you lose the student from your own department and guide the student to a different career path. And should challenge the mentee to step out of his or her comfort zone, challenge themselves, and go where they had not intended to go. And again, I had a student, this is another example for what I just said, the 2 points I just made. I had a student who had always wanted to become a physician in an underserved area, such as the Mississippi Delta. And the student was an underrepresented minority and felt very strongly to serve her people, if you wish, in that manner all her life. And then she came to the lab, did a research project, and realized she liked it. And that got her to think about other ways. And I told her how influential she could be as a mentor of underrepresented student in her role as a faculty member, for example, or in industry, or wherever her career path would lead her. And so then I urged her to go to a national research conference where there were nothing but underrepresented minorities, graduate and undergraduate level, as presenters of their research activities. And she came back a completely changed person, energized and full of confidence that she too could be part of that elusive community. She then went to a research intensive university close by here and was one of the few students who was offered 2 very prestigious scholarships because she was a very smart young woman. She was very successful, and she's graduating this fall with a PhD. So that's a success story. The other thing I think that is also very important is that as a mentor, you step back when a student does not follow the career path that you think the student should follow. For example, if you are, and I just say chemistry, if you are a passionate biochemist and you have been working with undergraduates or graduate students, you want them to become passionate biochemists. Not all of them want to become a passionate biochemist, but maybe change majors, change career path. And I think you have to be sensitive to that, as much as it may hurt, and as much as you may feel that you didn't do your job properly. But I think it's important to consider what the student really wants and what will be best for the student, because that's where his or her passion lies. What I can say looking back, since I'm no spring chicken anymore, when I first came here, I was a much more intense mentor, but maybe a less sensitive mentor. My mentoring style has evolved, in part because I have raised 2 daughters, and I have become more aware of what freshmen in college need in terms of mentoring, and I use that in my advising and then also in my mentoring of my research students. And I have also gained experience in what works for individual students and what doesn't work, where I have to pull back and let the student direct him or herself and just guide a little bit rather than be the forceful mentor that, as a German, I tend to be, I guess. So that's all I have to say. These are just a few points that I jotted down that I think might be helpful or might be the basis for a discussion later.